Hey everyone, welcome back to the Walk to Wealth podcast. If you're tuning in on YouTube or any of the podcast directories, make sure to do yourself one teeny tiny little favor and make sure to give us a follow because I don't want you to miss out on any of the amazing guests I got coming on this year. Without further ado, I got another very special guest coming on today, another in-person podcast coming on. This guy, I met him almost 3 years ago now. One of my good buddies, Brandon. If you guys are OGs to the podcast, you know Brandon hopped on the podcast a few times, public speaking coach. But I met him at one of Brandon's events, and since then we've been hitting it off, and we've been able to connect and collaborate, and just grow and watch be a part of each other's journeys for the past 3 years. And it's always fun to meet entrepreneur friends, but it's always more fun to meet entrepreneur friends locally because I feel like it's hard to find love in your own hometown. So when you have a community of people to help go alongside you on this entrepreneurship journey, it just makes everything more fun. So without further ado, Gio, for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to get to know you, to get to meet you yet, tell us your quick elevator pitch. Who are you? What do you do?
Sure. So my name is Giovanny Ramirez, and I've been a career coach since 2012, really 2009. And that's basically been my passion project. We're helping individuals really scale up their careers, mid-level or entry-level, just filling their cup, knowing that they could advance in their careers and really crush it and get to the income that they really want.
So before we get into all the amazing stuff you got coming up and cooking up, take us back in a time machine. Who was little Gio? What was it like growing up? What was your childhood like? Were you always this entrepreneurial and positive, energetic, vibrant person? What was little Gio like growing up?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, actually, John. I don't know much about my childhood. There's a big blank space in there.
Yeah.
But however, there is a moment in time that really sticks out to me when I was around 13, maybe 12 or 13, where my father actually used to take us to the library. We used to read a lot of books. And my father brought this book home, and I found it laying on the floor, I think. And it's called the Celestine Prophecy. And it's a book that changed my life. I didn't know it. I just picked it up and read it. Yeah. And it's this kind of self-development story. It's got insights. It's got repetitive things in there where it just taught me that we were energy. And it taught me that the laws of power, the rules of power, and taking power and giving power. And just that we're all connected. Mm-hmm. And that stuck with me, and what I didn't know was a seed was planted, and mostly in my late 20s is when I started really blossoming that seed. Yeah, so that changed me to the person you see here today.
You ever wonder, why is it that you can't remember most of your childhood?
I don't. I do know that I've had a
rough upbringing.
I may have had a rough upbringing, probably a traumatic experience somewhere.
My girlfriend tells me, because I'm the same way. I really don't, and I have a pretty solid memory. Yeah. My memory's pretty sharp. Memory. Especially when it comes to pointing back to events. But she was saying one day, and I don't know how true it is. I gotta look more into it. But how when your body goes to a traumatic event, it tends to hide away those memories so that you don't have to relive them. And I was sitting back thinking one day, maybe I remember my childhood being not that bad, mm-hmm. but maybe it's because all the bad parts were just subconsciously tucked away by my brain so that I didn't have to relive them. I'm not 100% sure, but that'll be a good thought project for me to work on myself on one of these days. But
same here. And I think it is you could say it's a curse because you don't know what happened there, but it is a blessing because a lot of people, they say the first 7 years you have no control as to the information that's given to you, right?
Yeah.
And then you spend the rest of your life trying to figure out what happened in those first 7 years.
Yeah.
So if you don't remember most of that or subconsciously you tucked it away, you now can program and put stuff in there that wasn't there before. Yeah. And now you have the option to pick the information that you're putting there. So that's what I found, at least. So gives me peace of mind.
All right, so let's continue on. So you read this book. And remind us, what was the name of the book again?
The Celestine Prophecy, It's actually having a resurgence, I think, because there's I see the content that at least is floating through my reels and social media. There's a lot of spirituality happening right now.
Yeah.
So it's had a resurgence.
Okay, that's dope. So you read that book, and it's dope that you were able to kind of pinpoint the spot where it all changed. I know for me, that pinpoint for entrepreneurship at least like seriously, like from like me just I always had a good head on my shoulders, and I was very introspective. That's the word I heard. Like when I always was like curious as to like what makes people tick, and always wanted to get down to the bottom of why people do things. But when that started geared towards entrepreneurship, I mean, you heard my story from the speaker schools we've been to together.
It's a great
once
story.
I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that's what kind of sparked it for me to really, really go into not just working on myself, but like trying to become a business owner, trying to become successful. So you said you read that book, and then it was some years until your 20s, just when you started to really blossom. So around your 20s, take us to that time period, paint the picture for us. What was going on in your life around then? Young Gio in his 20s, young adult. What was going on around that time?
Yeah, oh my God, the 20s were a great time for me. I got into a really good position at a company. I was very influential in it, became one of the main closers, started making six figures. And so it was a great time for me to, when you have new money, right? You're out there spending it like because you never had it before.
Yeah.
The 20s was really nice to me. And then everything changed. The 2008, 2009 collapse came. I was able to personally save my company for a whole year because I brought one account in that fueled us and kept the company alive for a whole year. But that's it. We couldn't survive any further. But 09, the company that I had helped build went under. My health went under trying to save the company. I had the love of my life at the time, and I couldn't even afford to go back and visit her because she lived in Canada. And so everything just went downhill. And to top it all off, like about 6 to 8 months later, I get knocked out and left for dead on the streets of Stamford, Connecticut. And so I woke up and I was just a victim. I got into victim mode for quite a long time. And the epiphany that came from that is that I was making the choice to be a victim. And so I was like, well, that gives me free will. If I'm making a choice to be a victim, then I can just make the choice to be happy, right? And that's where it all kind of like switched. And that is where I think the 2013, 2012 version of me said, there's knowledge that you haven't tapped into. And now you can live your life with purpose. Now you can live your life with intention. Now you can apply meaning where there was no meaning before.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where I don't know why this is, but it usually takes shutting us, getting us hit upside our head. Sometimes metaphorically, sometimes literally. Not to make joke of the situation, but
hey, listen, I'm back in it.
It's one of those things where it's like those dark moments are usually because to see the light.
Yeah.
And so like I heard the story a couple times before about what happened, but for anyone that's listening and never has been attacked before, what was that kind of like? Because you would assume that, it's back to your point about being a victim, it's hard to take chances when every time you're wondering if, whether it's as aesthetic walking out or trying a new business, whatever it may be, whenever you fail once and it hurts you bad, it's hard to keep trying again.
It's
so like how did you get mentally out of that space from being a victim? I know you mentioned that, you decided to, stop being a victim, that you had free will. And a lot of times a little bit easier said than done. So like, what was that process of like, just like kind of rewiring your brain to get back to the Gio that we know now or transform into the Gio that we know now?
It's a good question. And I like that question because I like to say that the brain is the laziest organ, right? It always wants to take the same path, right? If you always go down I-95, that's what the brain wants. It's like, oh, I want to take the Merit. No, the I-95, it's easier, right? And so I harken back to the fact that I think storytelling or listening to other people's stories is where you can get wisdom without having to go through the same circumstances. So I listened to a lot of NPR growing up. And there's a lot of storytelling shows, This American Life, the Moth Radio Hour. And what ended up happening is they have beautiful segments where people tell their stories. And so I was able to start looking at other people's lives and the decision making that they were doing and saying, wow, that's a decision tree, right? What's the best decision? And really extract that. And listening to other people's stories, I started building wisdom within me. And I think it harkens back to all the books that I read when I was a young kid as well. So I think if you want to rewire your brain, you say you could live 1,000 lifetimes by reading books, right?
Mm.
And so rewire your brain by listening to other people's stories, get the wisdom, get the inspiration or the lessons without you having to go through them yourself, and then make a decision and know that sometimes you have to make that decision multiple times a day. Like, I want to be happy today. Something bad happens, darn it, make sure you're happy. Or sometimes you have to do it, 20 times a day. So it depends. Once you make that decision, just be purposeful. And then when you feel you're getting off course, double down and make that decision once more.
Yeah, I like that. And one of my favorite quotes that goes alongside with that is a smart man learns from his mistakes. Mm-hmm. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others.
Yes, so true.
There's people, and another way to say it, don't reinvent the wheel. There's so many ways to say the same thing.
Yeah, it's so funny.
So many people try to put their own spin on it, but like they're all trying to point back to the same message for the most part. Another one I heard is you could tell who the first timers are because they usually are lying face down with arrows in their back. A lot of people, they want to be the first one to go out there and try to do the thing.
Yeah.
And it's great if it works, but a lot of times you just end up also being the first one to go through all the BS too as well.
It's true.
And so Russell Brunson said, I'm misquoting him, but it's something about, you could tell who did it first because they're usually laying down, face down with arrows on their back. And pretty much he's getting back to the same thing. It's like, bro, there's people who have made the way already. Just go down that way. And then from there branch out. Don't try to completely start from scratch for the most part. True. But another point, I had a good conversation. I was talking to this one guy I know from the restaurant I used to work at, and he was pretty much saying like, now when you're being creative, like you can't replicate what other people are doing. You can't duplicate what other people are doing. And I understand his reasoning behind that because like when you're coming from a genuine, authentic, truly creative space and you're putting your own unique spin on thing, it's hard to try to do what someone else is doing because you're so stuck in the thing you're trying to create that is coming from you, right? That you don't want to copy other people. But I think a lot of people, I guess, misunderstand. At least the conversation I was having with him, I was trying to share with him that there's people who have succeeded and he's a musician. And I was trying to tell him like, yes, your music is yours. You're creating your own music and all that stuff. And you want it to be your own sound, your unique sound that's unique to you. But it's like, there's people who have succeeded in music before. What are the principles that they use to succeed? And then how can you apply those principles to your life? Don't duplicate what they're doing. Don't copy their sound. But figure out what they did to succeed, understand why it worked, and then figure out how to apply that to you without you losing what makes you you.
Yeah, I'd like to actually elaborate on that. I think a lot of the like, let's not copy. I think it comes from a little bit from an ego space. But like, if we can learn what's happening with social media now, right? Where there's like, let's say this couple does this reel, right? Where they're doing this acrobatic stunt, right? And then you see like 20 other couples doing the same thing. Like, I've enjoyed watching the first one, and I've enjoyed the other 20 doing the exact same thing. They all have their different flavor, copying the exact same thing. So I think if we check our egos, we allow ourselves to go be a little bit successful, because a lot of the time we prevent ourselves from moving forward by saying, oh, somebody already did that, right? Yeah, but you haven't done it, and you haven't put your own spin on it. You haven't put your voice to it, your ideas, your creativity, or your even flavor. Or maybe if it comes out looking the same, hey, it worked for them. Why couldn't it work for you?
No, 100%. 100%. I like that. And to continue on to that point, so we got to the point to spin back a little bit to started working your way through other people's stories out of your own story. And you started to take back control, become the author of your own story. So true. You said this is around 2012, 2013. All right. From there, where did the story go? Because the company you said you were working at went under. Yeah. Right. You only had an account that lasted only a year, right? You only gave them a life vest, a year-long life vest. But after that, so 2012, 2013, from that point that you decided to turn things around, where did you go from there?
Yeah, so I ended up kind of like, so one of the things I did was branch out. So it's, let me take a step back. It's kind of where my career coaching really started to get in, because a lot of my friends started asking me to do the resumes and how to ask for a raise and how to interview. And what I ended up looking backwards for a bit. and realizing that, holy crap, I like nearly every job I ever applied for and I got the interview. Like a lot of them, I got the interview. And then when I got the interview, I got the position. And sometimes over people that were more qualified than me. And so that's when the reflection, the introspective side started taking over. But I branched out. I went to work for GE Capital as a contractor. Then I came back and tried to revive our company. And then ended up dying once more. And then eventually I made myself, I got into the world's largest hedge fund. And that was really nice because it was a company that had a lot of company culture and rules, and again, expanding, realizing, reflecting on all the lessons in life, and realizing that oh my God, here I am. At the time, I had an associate's degree, and here I am working for the world's largest hedge fund next to Princeton grads and Stanford grads, and that's really where the story takes me. And then eventually, I ended up at a hedge fund that right now, where I completed in May of 2024. I completed 10 years being there. Yeah, so overall, I've worked for over 10 different companies in my career, though.
Jeez, that's amazing. You got a lot of experience from a lot of different places. And throughout all of them, I mean, I know your story a little bit, but for anyone listening, they don't know that you were also doing a lot of entrepreneurial stuff here and there, even outside of career coaching. So like, where did the entrepreneurial side hustles start kicking in along the way? Because as I said, you're making pretty good money from your actual job. Like, there's not a lot of people who make six figures in their job. Like most people, I think the average wage is like, their salary is like $47,000, I think, in the U.S.
Wow.
We also live in a pretty fortunate area in the Northeast where there's more money than there is sometimes, Midwest states and stuff like that. But when did the side hustle like aspect kind of start to? I know you said that people started asking for resumes and career coaching, but I also know that you were doing some other side hustles outside of that as well. So like, how are you juggling all those different things while working your full-time position as well?
I think well, it all comes from my mentality is that everything is play for me. Like if I'm it's very like, I can probably count like the days like 5 days total in my entire like career in working where I woke up like, I didn't want to go to work. Like if I'm at work, I'm playing a game, I'm solving puzzles, I'm figuring things out. And it's the same thing when I come out. If I want to have a great friendship, it takes work. We got to connect, we got to make efforts. And so I'm playing at the same time. And so I don't make a big distinction between work and play. Play is work, work is play for me. With that being said, I do get the work ethic from my mom. Like I grew up very modest. My mom came here because in Guatemala, all we had was bread and butter on some days. And so she wanted a better life for me and for us. And so we made it here. And I, like any young Latino kid might have experienced is we were out there cleaning homes. So I would in middle school, I would go from school was over and I would go clean an apartment with her. And that continued, even though I was still making six figures, I would still go and actually clean homes with her. Because as a reminder that this hard work, number one, put me through college. And also as a reminder that, hey, cash matters. And, I don't dispel opportunities from anywhere.
Let's elaborate on that.
Play is work,
So you said that, even after you're making six figures, you still, went back and helped your mom out to clean. Now, a lot of people forget where they come from.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to, especially when you become successful relatively quickly. It's very easy because, as you said, you get some new money.
Yeah.
And no one ever teaches you. No one in your family has ever had money like that. It's hard, and no one has taught you how to manage money like that. At least that much money.
Yeah.
It's very easy to kind of just get big-headed and forget where you came from, and you get this ego. So, like, what was that like? Going back to clean and remind yourself, like, hey, this is where we came from. This is how we, used to make our ends meet. Now we're in a more fortunate position, but still doing it, not out of necessity, but more so just out of, I guess, a reminder, seems like, to remind yourself where you're coming from, and also probably spend time with your mom as well.
Yeah. I feel very fortunate, actually. And I do appreciate, when you're sitting there, you're using your brain your entire day, right?
Yeah.
And going to work with your hands is actually very refreshing. And at the same time, I do like projects where you can see the before and after. And so like my mom was fortunate enough to grow her company to the point where she was working in amazing homes. I mean, for some of the there was a home where the entire thing had art worth millions, and the floor alone was probably like 400,000. It's so imported like wood from Italy,
Yeah.
special slippers to walk around, and so it was inspiring to go into these homes. And so I felt very fortunate, and also to know that, like, let's say if they had construction done, and then by the time we were done, this home looked pristine. To see that happen, and to know that, hey, this is the hard work that created the opportunity for me to be the man that I am today. It to me is it's a gift. It really is, and it's a blessing. And our parents, I'm sure your parents too, sacrificed so much so that to give us these opportunities.
Yeah, and one of those things where, having like that firsthand example of like work ethic, there's not much like, it's hard to like kind of go astray to that when it's like right there in your face. But some people could also see it as like, she's working hard, like, so I don't have to, right? But you decided to really just take that work ethic and discipline to heart and let that carry you out through the rest of your career. And it's paid off, and it is still paying off to this day. So take us back to the story. Take us back a little bit. So you started bouncing around positions at different hedge funds. You got these entrepreneurial things. Career coaching was growing. Take us to where you're at today.
Yeah.
Where are you at with everything? Because I know you still have a job. You're still doing the career coaching. I'm not sure if there's any other side project you got going on. I wouldn't be surprised if there's it, because you always got something cooking up. But so take us to where's Gio at right now? Where has all of these different positions and these different experiences and opportunities led you?
Yeah. So today I'm the assistant vice president of the closing department for the company that I work for, and this is an amazing, for me at least, it's going to be an amazing year because I really want to expand my career coaching practice, where I want to enter the university sphere or like organizations. That I really want to expand my footprint and work not one-on-one, but in group settings. Pairing that up with a show that I'll start producing in March, as well as a book that I have hopefully published by the end of February. It's just really about taking the lessons that I've learned from both coaching, from my personal experience, from stories, from books, and really sharing that with the world just to increase the impact and make life even more meaningful than what it is today. I think giving back and really having the ability to change lives, it's something that not everybody wants to do, but if that's your thing, it can be so rewarding.
No, 100%. I think one of the biggest things that changed my life, and I mentioned on the podcast before, and I probably mentioned them under the talks that you heard me give, but the duty of the enlightened is to enlighten the unenlightened.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I never heard that quote.
And so I love that quote because it's like, and pretty much saying like your moral obligation is like just to put everybody on once you learn. And
it's so true.
But I remember still teaching my very first class, like it was yesterday, like that high I felt before, during, and after I taught that class.
It's so fun, right?
Was insane. That's when I knew, like, all right, I got to do more other stuff, like speaking, presenting, helping people. And that's why I invested so much time and energy into becoming a better speaker. Like, my biggest help was Russell Brunson. I read so much of his books, just trying to, and upgraded to so many of his upsells, just so I could like go through the trainings to invest and just become a better communicator, a better presenter. How can I persuade people? How can I inspire people? I realized that there's a difference between talking for talking's sake and giving a message that, inspires people to take action and empowers them to take action.
Yeah,
and like once I realized that, that's when I really started going all in on, I said, speaking, communicating, and stuff like that. Because there's not many things that are better than helping other people win. Like, even if you don't win or don't have any credit for it, but just like seeing other people win, something about it is just so fulfilling that it's kind of hard to put to words, really. But
it's true. It's like it's a feeling that your heart fills. As corny as it sounds, like your heart it glows. No, 100%. You see another person glow, it's like great. I may have taken a little part of that. I don't need the recognition. I don't need. I just need that person to go and live their best life. And hopefully I was a component to them getting to the best place, Yeah, no,
100%. And speaking of getting to the best place, I mean, you're on the rise right now with all this stuff you got cooking up. You said you mentioned a book, a show, and more career coaching. You also have a great position right now. So like, ideal world, I mean, you mentioned work is play, so it's not like you're dying to escape.
Yeah.
But like,
So
let's say the career coaching blows up. Like, what does the career coaching, what's in store for that? Like, let's say, a year plus, like, what's your vision for the career coaching?
Yeah, I'd love to have a company. One of the things that I've seen is, personally, I have some friends that have had companies where they're very culture driven, and I've seen the amazing things that they've been able to do. Mm-hmm. So I'd love to eventually have a company that focuses just mainly on communications, particularly for like interview settings, and really just go out there and crush it. Be like, have my chief marketing officer, have my chief communications officer, and just, my sales guys, and we're trying to crush it, get to as many schools, as many organizations, and help people have breakthroughs in life.
Yeah.
I went through a program called the Landmark Forum in New York City. It was the first time that I had ever seen a program that really fit who I was and expanded me. And what I saw happen in that room is people having breakthroughs right there in front of me. Mm-hmm. And if I can create that environment and create a company that does that, and also at the same time providing an amazing salary with bonuses to all the people, help them get wealthy, and we all get wealthy together.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a dream come true.
One thing, I don't know if you do this on purpose. One thing I noticed, you mentioned that you said you want to have a company. Everyone wants to own a business or be a small business owner, mm-hmm. but you mentioned when I hear company, something about word choices is so important. You said company. When I think company, I think like massive, like big behemoth, mm-hmm. like not just a local mom and pop. That's still like a company, but like, yeah. I think it just sounds like you're planning for bigger. So I'm excited to see how it ends up playing out and what it turns into. But for anyone that wants to kind of tag along for the ride, Gio, where can they find you? Where anyone that wants to potentially get a job and needs some help, how can they connect with you? How can they tap into all the amazing career coaching opportunities you have available?
Yeah, sure thing. You can find me at GiovannyRamirez.com. This is Giovanny with a Y. And you can find me on Instagram at the World of Gio. That's GIO, at the World of Gio on Instagram.
All righty, now it's time for our famous 5 questions. Same 5 questions I ask every single guest that hops on. We got to run them through. Question number 1 is, what is the most impactful lesson you've learned in life?
Oof. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. When someone says, hey, we think you could do this, just say yes. Or hey, there's this gigantic problem. If you don't know how to do it, just say yes and you'll figure it out. Yeah.
What is the most admirable trait a person can have?
Ooh, transparency. Yes. They don't need to be perfect. Just be transparent when it matters the most. Yeah.
If you had to change someone's life but only had one book to recommend, which would it be?
Now, you already know, the Celestine Prophecy. We're all energy. We could all build each other up. Yeah.
What is the legacy that you're working on leaving behind?
Good question. I think the legacy I'd like to leave with is that that I filled everyone's cup, and that they believed in themselves. They were a better version of themselves. They were able to achieve more because of the efforts that I did in the community that we built up. So that if you came next to me, that your cup was filled. You walked away saying, all right, I'm ready to tackle life. Yeah.
And for anyone that wants to embark on their walk to wealth today, what is the very first step you recommend they take?
Walk to wealth. Great question. Great question. I'll take a quick second to think about that one. I think I would recommend that to know that you're greater than the version that you are today, that you bought a story of who you are, and you are nowhere near that story that you bought for yourself. You're so much bigger. And so find a way to explore your depth, and you will find your greatness lies within you right there.
Amen.
Amen.
Gio, I appreciate you having on, brother.
Appreciate you having me on, man.